Hello everybody, in this video I'm going to be making some autumn/fall theme junk journals using printables from Bontik Vintage Designs. I collabed with them back in the spring and they had some, oh my goodness, such gorgeous autumn pieces to use, and I am creating 4 journals in this video because I couldn't decide which ones to use, so I just went with all the ones that I got. So as well as some of the printed pages, which are printed double-sided because I never understand why you wouldn't print double-sided, I had to choose. There's so many different designs in each kit, and it's so hard to choose, so that took me a long time to do that part. And then I'm adding a few extra bits, some craft paper, some vintage book pages that were like autumny floral themed, envelopes, bits and pieces like that. Oh, and each journal has 2 printed vellums, using obviously the printables because printed vellum is like yum yum yum, one of my favourite things. So once I've decided on my papers, I then get to work on my covers. You can also see in the background there I have printed off on cardstock a load of the ephemera pages, and I print those off double-sided as well. So I choose one of the background papers and put it on the reverse of the ephemera, so the ephemera is double-sided basically, so the tags have 2 sides, and it's nice and pretty that way. Anyway, covers. I decided for these covers to actually use an autumn theme paper pad I had bought recently. So I went through and found the paper that I thought matched each kit the most, and went from there. I am making these sort of regular wide / Kahir size, maybe a little bit bigger, and I'm doing with the covers a thing that I often do these days, which is I don't cut them vertically at all. I actually fold the bottom in, so then you get a pocket in the cover kind of pre-built in there. So I just measure how tall I need the cover to be, make a little mark, score it, and fold it in like that, so the the pocket is built in, as I said. But then as a way to include the printables and show you like the theme of each journal, I have chosen one larger of the ephemera pieces, cut it out, and then I'm going to add it as like a little motif on the front of the cover. I'm going to back it with a contrasting colour, stitch it of course, because if you've seen any of my journal videos before, you know I love to stitch everything in my handmade journals. So yes, there's a little motif of some sort on the front of each, and you can tell, you know, what they are. I haven't told you the kits I'm using. I should probably do that. I have it written down somewhere. Bear with. Oh, there we go. So I am using Autumn Memories, Autumn Reverie, Vintage Pumpkins, and Bright Fall. And then for the journals, when I list them in my shop, I will call them slightly different names, just so I'm not using all of Bontik Vintage's names, but I will try and remember to use their names in the making of before I tell you the journal titles towards the end of the video. So this one I'm using right now is the Vintage Pumpkins kit. Chose a pumpkins paper for the cover, seemed pretty obvious to do that, and I'm going around the edges of everything in various autumnal distress oxide colours, aged mahogany, walnut stain, colours like that, those deep rich brown earthy tones. I pulled out just from my stash some more dark, neutral, earthy toned papers to do the backing on each of these, because I thought if I use something very patterned or anything else from like the ephemera kit or the printables, it's going to get lost on that busy cover. So that's why I went with those very neutral, basic toned papers. And then I am only using a teeny tiny bit of adhesive, little bit of glue, a little bit of double-sided tape to hold them in place, because I will take them to my sewing machine and stitch them in place. So it's just to keep them in the right place for now. Just to finish off the covers before I take them to my sewing machine, I rounded the corners. I do that with scissors by hand. I find it easier on heavier material than using an actual corner rounder. And then also all around the edges with a distress oxide colour. This one is walnut stain. I tried to keep themes going with each different journal, so if I use the browns a lot on one, I would stick to the browns, but if I use the mahogany on another, I would stick more to the aged mahogany colour. There is a bit of mixing and matching with the colours here and there. I just go with what I think looks good at the time, but generally speaking I think it looks better when you stick with one tone rather than mixing them loads and loads and all together. Sometimes it can be very difficult to explain my thought process because I don't really plan ahead. I do what feels right in the time. So as I said, it's hard to talk about it sometimes because I'm like, what did I do in that moment? No planning. If I plan things, they go horribly wrong. I'm a in the moment crafter, if you like. Anyway, with all my little front motifs chosen and backed, some are double backed, some are single backed, it is time to head over to the sewing machine. I spend a lot of time at the sewing machine when I'm doing making these journals, and it's not got the best lighting over there, so I do apologise, you know, if things are a bit shadowy and stuff. I do cut out a lot of the sewing machine stuff, but I just want to show you here and there the bits that I use. I also decided at this very moment that what I would also do is do different thread colours for the different journals. So for the pumpkin one and the one that is created with, I've lost my piece of paper again, there we go, the one that is created with Autumn Reverie, I'm using a sort of light beigey taupe kind of coloured thread, because those are the lighter colour kits. And then with the other two, the Autumn Memories and the Bright Fall, I'm going with more of a dark brown coloured thread. And then, of course, as is the law of everything, as soon as I start doing my sewing machine work, I have to rethread the bobbin. Every time. Why is it every time? I sit down, I do like 30 seconds, and then it's grrr, gotta rethread. Ugh. Anyway, I also discovered at this point that it worked out better to stitch the little picture, motif, whatever, onto the front of the cover before I stitched around the edges of the cover. Now, stitching around the edges of the cover, not really necessary. It does help keep that little flappy pocket in place at the bottom, but other than that, I just do it for the aesthetic reasons. I think it looks gorgeous. I love a stitched edge. I don't think it necessarily helps the structural integrity of the cover. I don't know, it might do, but that's the main reason I round the corners, because that really helps. Just that simple thing, when you have a straight corner on just a cardstock cover, those things can get really roughed up really quickly. So little things like that help. I don't know if the stitching does, but it does look pretty. I've just also remembered that I've forgotten to do the standard disclaimer I make when I make these videos about the time it takes to make the journals. So this video is going to be circa 30 minutes long, but of course that is not how long it took me to make these. The videos are heavily sped up, compressed, edited, and so on. And there's a lot of repetitive stuff, so every single thing you see me do, basically, I then have to repeat another 3 times because I'm making 4 journals. But it would be one heck of a boring video if I showed you absolutely everything. So yes, just friendly reminder of how edited these videos are. You know, I didn't actually make note of how long these journals took me to make. I must do that sometime, like actually time myself, because usually I do it like I might do all the sewing on one day and then I've got to do something else unrelated, and then one day I do all the ephemera, you know. So it's hard to actually work out. People ask me all the time, oh, how long does it take you? I'm like, I don't really know, to be honest. One thing I do know though is that I can only do a certain amount of sewing machine work at a time, because something about sitting there really does my back in. So if anyone who uses a sewing machine a lot has any tips for that, because once I get to like the half-hour 40-minute mark, I'm like in agony and I have to take a break. So sewing machine sitting tips for your back would be greatly appreciated. Anyway, all the covers and motifs stitched, looking super pretty if I do say so myself. I am then going to take some of this ephemera, like the ATCs and tags and stuff that I've printed off from each kit, and cut out a few bits and pieces that I'm going to use within the journals to add all of my pockets and flip outs and tuck spots and all of those kind of things. And then I'm also going through each of the pages and stuff I've printed out for the journal and decide what order they're going to go in. I actually put quite a lot of thought and effort into this to make sure everything works and everything flows. Like, no similar pages aren't next to each other. The first page matches the cover really nicely. Very small pages are not too close together. Pages that I know I'm gonna put pockets in, I haven't put all of those in the middle, for example. So this, you know, I take a little time and I quite enjoy this part of the process. I think it's one of the more creative parts. I have fun doing it. Oh, there's one of the printed vellums. Oh, I love them so much. I'm obsessed. With these printables as well, there are so many that make really nice double page spreads. So I spent probably far too long deciding on which one would be the centerpiece, the centerfold for the signature, because they were all so pretty. I can't even remember which one I decided for this one. Actually, this is the Vintage Pumpkins one, which I think I'm just going to call Pumpkins in my shop. And I think I've edited the video as such that you don't even see what I decided to put as the centerpiece. So we will have to find out later because I can't remember either. Anyway, once I have done this part, and as I said, I will cut out a few of the larger ephemera pieces and tags and stuff to use as pockets, then it's back to the back-breaking sewing machine. Oh joy. I have a love-hate relationship with this stage of the journal making process. I've probably said this before like 1,000 times, but I love coming up with all these like different ways and ideas of creating pockets and flip outs and tuck spots. Like I will do some obviously of just one little piece stitched in at the side on two sides, little tuck spot. I do a fair few of those, but I kind of like to add a few that are a little bit more interesting, a little bit more interactive. So I will go through the signature page by page, see what I have, what bits I have to use, and then stitch them in and just see how it will work, see what I can come up with. And I stitch them because it looks nicer and it's much more durable and reliable than using any kind of glue. So yes, but obviously the hate part of the relationship is the aforementioned, ow, my back hurts at the sewing machine. So yes, again, please give me tips. I'm running out of ideas. The sewing machine, as you can see, is she's getting on a bit. It belonged to my mother. It's got that kind of thing that some plastic does over time and go a little bit yellowish. Someone suggested I paint it, which I will do eventually. It's on the to-do list. It's double or triple digits on the to-do list, if you get me. My to-do list is very scarily long. The one I'm working on at the moment, in case you're wondering, is the Autumn Memories kit, which I will be calling Vintage Autumn. In my shop, this is I love the colours of this one, like really dark, beautiful, warm colours. The bright fall one, which I will call warm fall because I'm not creative enough to think of anything else, is similar, but it's slightly more of a mixed media kind of vibe to it, slightly more arty, whereas this one is the more deep reds and browns and, you know, those vintagey tones. And in case you're wondering why I'm calling one of them warm fall when I'm British and we say autumn, just kind of a shout out to all the people in the USA that follow me, because there's more of the USA people than there are others, so little shout out to you guys. Okay, I think we are nearing the end of the little stitching section. As said previously, a lot of it has been cut out. I'm trying to think how long. It usually takes me between 30 to 45 minutes per journal of stitching. Obviously depends on the size of it, depends how many pockets. Like sometimes I get custom requests and people don't want many pockets. Sometimes I get custom requests and people want pockets basically on every page. So it does change, but on average it's, you know, that kind of time per journal or per signature. Now before I stitch everything together, I like to go through all the signatures and just make sure everything is facing the right way and I'm still happy with the order of the pages. Then I will measure the signature and where I am going to punch the holes evenly. I do 5 holes in pretty much all the signatures that I do for a saddle stitch. And then the first thing I do, first I need to put some new tape on my bookbinding cradle, but the first thing I do is to triple, quadruple, whatever check that all the pages are facing the right way. I will punch that center hole and then go through the pages once more, because one time I basically stitched, very early on, I stitched a journal in upside down and it was a nightmare and I had to redo like the whole thing. So because of that, I am haunted and constantly check. And if you do it when you're punched just in that center point, it means if any page is facing the wrong way, you can just spin it on that middle point, turning point. So that's my little paranoid extra checks I like to do there. I also punch the cover separately to the signature. Well, I attach it to the already punched signature. I find it easier. If you want to go through all the papers and the cover at the same time, it's quite hard work. So it's just for ease sake, really, that I do them separately. And then here I am doing the basic saddle or figure of 8 stitch to bind it. I use a 1mm waxed cord bookbinding thread. I need to get some more colours, I think. I've only ever really used this cream colour, and I definitely need to expand my colour selection of these because they would have looked kind of cool in brown, but you don't really see them anyway because I'm going to do my little signature ribbon stitching that I do on pretty much every journal these days. And then the knot in the centre, I do quite a few knots and then I loop them underneath the signature a few times as well. Make sure they're extra secure. And there we go. It is bound. Hooray! Then obviously repeat that 3 times. So while I have a second, I will address, because if some regulars may have noticed, there is something new on my right arm. I am finally doing something that I have wanted to do since I was a teenager, which is get a Lord of the Rings Tolkien themed sleeve on my arm, and I finally got it started. So that's what's going on there. It is Eowyn's sword, surrounded by the symbol Moon of Flowers, and then there'll be other bits. Obviously, they're full day tattoo sessions. There's going to be 4, 5, maybe even 6 of them. So you'll see it as it progresses. But that's what's going on there, and that's why it's looking a little bit incomplete at the moment, because yeah, it's going to take quite a few sessions to do. Anyway, I think I'm pretty much done with my binding now, and then I'm going to do, as I said, my little new signature thing of adding ribbon onto the spine. I started this in about this time last year, actually, when I made last year's Christmas journals, which yes, I will be making some this year, don't worry. Always my most popular thing in my shop, the Christmas journals. But yeah, I just love it. I'm completely obsessed with it, and I've bought way more ribbon than I actually need. So I decide which ribbon matches best. I bought a nice cream one for these. Well, not for these, but just to have in general for those warmer, earthy tones. Super simple. You just wrap it around the signature binding, making sure it faces the right way the whole time, so you're getting the satiny side of the ribbon on the right side up. Tie it around the back, and there we go. Don't pull it too tightly so it doesn't pull at the cover. I'm just firing the edges of the ribbon there so they don't fray, but also if you don't like the ribbon, it's done in a way that it's really easy to remove as well. So, and then also give it a little tug at the top and bottom so it really goes around the cover as well. I haven't shown that very well. I'll try and show that better in a different video. Tell you what, I could also do with some ribbon storage ideas if anyone has any good ones, because at the moment I'm just using sellotape to like keep the ribbon reel thing, whatever, sort of closed so the ribbon doesn't go everywhere. But I still need a better storage solution, because I kind of have them all over the place. Like there's no logic to it whatsoever. It's just wherever they get chucked. So yeah, ribbon storage solutions would be appreciated. So on the Cozy Autumn, I used a cream ribbon. On the Vintage Autumn and Warm Fall, I used that lovely deep burgundy one. And on the Pumpkins one, I went for a navy. I just go with whatever colour I feel looks best, really. So with the journals all bound and ready to go, I want to work on my ephemera and all the little bits and pieces I will put in the pockets of the journal. I have this aforementioned ephemera and, you know, tags and ATCs and things from the kits that I've printed out on cardstock. As I said, I print them out double-sided using one of the double page spreads on the reverse, so you know they're all pretty and double-sided. And then I will take them over to my other desk and do something creative with each piece. So the ones that are tag shaped, I have punched a hole in. I use my tag punch board to get the hole in the exact center because I'm not very good at eyeballing that, but I will go back and add a bigger hole to it. I'm going to go around each and every single piece with some Distress Oxide in varying colours, whatever I feel looks best at the time. I also added in to the warm mahogany and walnut stain I was using. I am also using the Spiced Marmalade colour to bring in a slightly brighter tone into everything. Then also inking these very simple, very cheap, like office supply hole protector reinforcer things. I'm sorry, the brain frog is really strong. Frog. The brain fog is very, very strong today. Anyway, once I've punched the bigger hole in the tags, I also put these little hole protector thingy stickery majigs on there, because it looks nice and it protects the hole. That sounds wrong. We have fully descended into chaos now. This is what happens when I have to do a voiceover for longer than 20 minutes. My brain just like stops functioning properly, and I can't make word with mouth. What am I doing here? I'm adding the various bits of twine and string and bits and pieces to the tags. Sometimes I layer up like different types of twine. Sometimes I will just like fold 4 or 5 times a very long piece of string, so you get like a sort of a fan of string coming out the top of the tag. Just experimenting, doing different things to make it more interesting in general. And then I'm also, with some of the smaller pieces that aren't really tag shaped, I'm going to use some of the ribbon offcuts to add this little, I don't know what to call it, little ribbony thing that I've stapled on. Again, I'm ceasing to function. I'm sure there's a word for that. I'm sure there is, but again, with the brain fog. And then I saved, I think, 3 pieces per kit, which I take over back to the sewing machine, which I didn't film because I thought we'd had enough sewing machine time in this video, but I just stitched around them to make them pretty. And then, oh, this is a part I love doing, which is going through each journal and filling all the pockets with goodies. I was just checking there, so as well as all the ephemera that I've worked on, the tags and bits and pieces, I've pulled out some autumn themed stickers and papers and bits and pieces, all from my shop, some of my own designs, some of the ones that I put into journal kits to add to all the lovely pieces in the journal. And I do just keep a track of how many I'm putting in so I can put it in the description on the shop as well. So that's why there's that little scrap of paper that you'll see me keep writing on. But I really love doing this bit, and it's nice to like really look through the journal properly and see what I've actually created because sometimes, you know, when you're doing multiple at once and there's so many stages to it, you kind of lose track of what the whole thing looks like. So yeah, I really enjoy doing this little bit. It's a lot of fun. And just to help you keep track, this is the journal created with the Autumn Memories kit, the one which I will be calling Vintage Autumn in my shop. And I don't have my piece of paper handy to say how many bits and pieces each journal has. They have around 30 each. Yeah, roughly. And then once I've got everything in, I've usually got a few leftover bits, so I have to go back through and see what pockets would look better with 2 or 3 things in and little things like that. Put the little pieces in a little envelope and find a place to put that. And then the journals are pretty much done once I have done that stage. All that's left to do is the more admin-y side of things. So I will go through and count how many pages there are and how many pockets, tuck spots, flip outs, interactive elements there are, just so I can write them down and have them ready to put in the shop. Then I need to take pictures, of course, and then I need to edit those pictures and write descriptions and really, really boring things that I will not bother to show you because it's literally just me sitting at my computer. But I will show you just a little snippet of how I stage and take the photos, because they're not only for Etsy, they're for Instagram and all the various social medias as well. So I try to make the background, fill it with a few bits and pieces that are related to the journal. So I'm using that autumn paper pad that I was using, some leftovers of the ribbon. I had some spare papers left over because I printed more than I needed and I thought I might use them for another project. And some of the other supplies like the distress oxides and things, I don't want to overwhelm it with lots of little bits and pieces. And then sometimes you also have to add a disclaimer like, scissors in picture are not included in the journal. And I know that's really obvious to all of you watching, but you will not believe some of the stuff you have to do when you run a small shop. Anyways, but I know it looks very, very busy on the screen right now, but there is photo editing that goes into things, so you could add the focus onto the main object and things like that. So and then when I'm doing the individual journals, I'm toning it down even more and only using the papers that relate to that exact journal and just little things like that. And then choosing some of what I think are, you know, the best page spreads, double page spreads to really show the journal off. Obviously, I can't show every single page on shop listing because you're limited to 10 photos. On Etsy, at least you are. So again, I just choose ones that I think show it off the best and give you the best like impression of the overall theme of the journal and what kind of interactive elements there are, and you know, little things like that. I think there's more thought that goes into it than I think people realize when it comes to this stage of taking the photos and showing off the product, etc. Anyways, enough of all of that. Journals are done. Everything is done. It is time for a flip through. So this one is Vintage Autumn. As I said not very long ago, this is created with the Autumn Memories kit from Bontik Vintage. This one has 56 pages and 11 pockets, tuck spots, flip outs, etc. And then it has 29 various pieces of ephemera and pattern paper and stickers and other cute things. Next is the Cozy Autumn Journal. This one was created with the Autumn Reverie kit. This one has 52 pages, 12 pockets, flip outs, tuck spots, and 28 pieces of ephemera. This one here is the Pumpkins journal, created with, surprise surprise, the Pumpkins kit. It's called Vintage Pumpkins actually, at Bontik Vintage. Theme of this one, pretty self-explanatory. This one is also 56 pages. It has 11 pockets, etc., and 29 pieces of ephemera. And lastly, we have the Warm Fall journal, created with the Bright Fall kit from Bontik Vintage. This one has 52 pages, 13 pockets and tuck spots and whatnot, and 33 pieces of ephemera and paper and stickers and such. And as we are coming to the end of the video, I'm not going to put the music on, I'm going to wrap up. So thank you so much for watching. Huge thanks to Bontik Vintage for reaching out and letting me play with these gorgeous autumnal kits. And the next video of this type will be Halloween themed, because I also have some Halloween themed ones. So that will be out as soon as I possibly can, because obviously we are getting closer and closer to Halloween. These journals will of course be listed in my Etsy shop if you are interested. The links will be down in the description box, but if you are only interested in the printables, which I completely understand because they're gorgeous, they will be linked in the description box as well as a discount code for a whopping 50% off the store, which will be down in the description box as well. So there we go. Thank you so very much for watching. Please leave me a thumbs up if you enjoyed. Chat to me down in the comments. I've asked you for tips on back pain and ribbon storage and all sorts of things, so help me out, guys. Okay, yep, that's it. Thank you so much again. I am now going. Bye bye.